How many of you have ever heard of a bugbear? It is a hobgoblin or a specter that is used to excite fear. The bugbear is a dangerous goblin-like or boggy-like creature that was fond of eating children. As the name suggests, the bugbear had the shape of a large bear. Stories of the bugbear were used to scare children in English and Scottish tales. The name derives from the old Celtic word bug, which means an evil goblin. During the medieval period, people said that the bugbear was a monstrous bear monster that lurked in the woods and would capture and eat any children that wandered in there on their own. Well, that's nice. That's a nice thing to tell children. This seems to be a common theme among the old Celts. Just scare the crap out of children and then eat them later. I mean, what is with their many child-eating monsters in old lore? This bugbear, apparently, is a character from the very popular Dungeons and Dragons game. But these characters are not just made up by the creators of the game. They have origins and real history. A bugbear is a medium humanoid, rising to the same height as a human, though preferring to hunt and stalk with a stoop that make it look considerably shorter and more bestial. Short dark fur spreads all across its powerful, hulking frame. Its large ears hang loosely from its skull, and its eyes are unnaturally large, almost alien. It is not unusual for bugbears to reach nearly 7 feet in height and always weigh more than humans, some even reaching 400 pounds. With that description, they might as well call this thing Bigfoot or werewolf. Here's the thing, and you guys might find this interesting. What if these creatures that some people claim to have truly seen them, what if these creatures are not monsters and are not fallen angels or demons? What if they are people? Some of them. But not like you and I. A separate race of humans that were born a long time ago and have remained isolated and hidden all these years, which may explain a lot of the tales of the wild man. But there is another legend that exists, whose origins are rooted in the bugbear or goblin. You may know its name. They call him the Boogeyman. Unlike the bugbear, the boogeyman is more of a supernatural being. In some stories, the boogeyman is a good spirit. In others, it's a demon. One of the most important things to note about the boogeyman is that its legend is found all over the world, in way too many different cultures. In essence, this thing is the same creature described over and over again. Sometimes it just kidnaps kids, sometimes it eats them. Only the naughty ones, though. The disobedient ones. And sometimes they go after adults if they are guilty. Krampus is another version of the boogeyman. In Croatian lore, there is the Babaroga, which means grandma with horns. A beast much like the boogeyman who has a taste for children who don't listen to their parents. She likes to come in late at night to kidnap them in the dark, taking them to her lair where she devours them. Get this, like Krampus, she uses a bag to haul her victims away, and she will often lurk around at night preying on children who may wander off alone. In Japan, all the way over in Japan, there is the legend of the Namahage, a demon that was brought to Japan over 2,000 years ago by the emperor, one that enjoyed stealing crops and kidnapping young women. To drive the Namahage out of the area, the villagers hatched a plan. They promised to give up all the young women in the village at once if the ogres could build a massive stone staircase overnight. But if they failed, they would agree to leave Oga for good. The creatures agreed, and just before the staircase was completed, one of the villagers imitated the sound of a rooster's crow, tricking the Namahage into believing that morning had come and they had failed to complete their task. The Namahage left Oga, never to be seen again, except that is at New Year, or so the children of Oga believe. This is another being that sounds a lot like Krampus, being that they only appear around the holiday season, in this case New Year's. There is the Tata Duende. Tata Duende, translated English, means grandfather demon. He is depicted as an old mischievous character that is very short, has backward feet, wears a tall pointy hat, and has both his thumbs missing. If you ever encounter him, you couldn't show him your hands since he'd cut off your thumbs. Parents also warned their children that if they skipped classes, Tate Duende would lure them into the jungle and they would never be seen again. Tate Duende was blamed when weird things happened around the farm. I remember him being blamed once for destroying the neighbor's crops, and once in a while he would braid a horse's hair and it would have to be cut off completely as it couldn't be loosened. You'll notice a similarity between these beings destroying crops or stealing crops. This thing reminds me of the creeper. There is the dark man or black man that wears a hood or face covering. Now this one, it kidnaps children, but unlike the other boogeymen, it doesn't eat them. Instead, it holds them prisoner for a year. In Greece, they call him the babulas, a creature that hides under the bed, and parents used this story to frighten children into behaving. Now let me ask you all a question. Do any of you recall any one of your parents purposely trying to frighten you into good behavior with stories of a boogeyman? If you have, I'm sorry and I feel for you, but who are these people? This is what people used to do? Well, I guess physical punishment wasn't that much better, now that I think of it. But you should see how far this legend goes. Take a quick look here. I found this on brickthology.com. In Afghanistan, I mean, it's not bad enough to be in Afghanistan. The Bala or Nawane Mama, which means the monster or crazy person, is used to scare children when they won't sleep or take their medicine. In the Congo, this story made it into the deep Congo. The Dongola Miso, or creature with scary eyes, is used to scare children into going to bed on time. It is also used to warn children and adults alike about the dangers of dealing with and speaking to strangers. Egypt, the Abu Rigal Masluka, man with burnt skinned leg, is a particularly scary story told by parents to children who misbehave. The Abu Rigal Masluka is a monster who got burnt as a child as he wouldn't listen to his parents. He will grab children and cook them to eat. In Egypt, they're telling their kids bedtime stories about Freddy Krueger. My goodness. In Iran, the Lulu is used in Persian culture to frighten children into behaving. The Lulu is also sometimes called the Lulu Korkor, or boogeyman who eats everything up. In Mexico, El Cucuy is a evil monster that hides under children's beds at night. He will kidnap and eat any child who disobeys their parents. He is described as being a small humanoid with glowing red eyes. Sometimes he is believed to have been a child who was a victim of violence that has come back to life. In Quebec, the 7 o'clock man is used to scare children into behaving if they won't go to bed, or else he takes them to his cave to eat them. I guess 7 o'clock is bedtime in Quebec. Man, that's early. But if you're not in bed by 7, that could cost you your life. Look here, in both Sri Lanka and Yukon in Canada, they talk about the sack kidnapper and the Quankus that uses a large sock. So what is it about this bag? So how is it that we have so many different cultures telling the same story about a sack-carrying, kidnapping monster, using the story for the same purpose, to frighten children? So what is all this? How is this coincidence? Well, it's not. It's just another working of fallen angels, fallen beings, dark entities. The key is the name. In ancient Egypt, there is the Baba or baboon demon, Babi, the deity of the underworld, another lowercase g, that was bloodthirsty, living on entrails. Of who? Of those who were unrighteous. The baboon actually fits the description of some of the boogeymen described in several cultures. Very similar, right? That is not coincidence. You know, if there was a time period where parents were telling their kids these stories, it was probably around a time period where many of them went missing. Just a hunch. That seems to be the case whenever these deities are celebrated. But what about Bigfoot? Is this another boogeyman? Does it have anything to do with the missing 411? Your guess is as good as mine. Maybe in some cases, because I do suspect that many of these sightings of Bigfoot are sightings of wild men. I'm not talking about some hermit who decided to go savage. I'm talking about a race of humans who have slightly different genetics than ours, that live in very small tribes or tribal groups. Don't the Native Americans have story after story about these people? Some of them were like giants, right? Are you mapping the connections? You know, sometimes I discuss ghouls and goblins on this show, not to scare anyone, but to point out their relevance in history and the things people may be citing today. I think that for a very long time, these cryptid beings have always been here among us. But they have been carefully held back. They have been carefully hidden and repelled and pushed away from us, isolated from us, kept from us. Not by the government, but by a higher power. I mean, God is holding back these 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, right? What else is being held back that we haven't been told about? God didn't tell the angels everything. Why would he tell us everything? With so many creations, how do we know if these are just spiritual beings or just beings people rarely run into? Because for the most part, they are being kept at a distance at all times, and have been for who knows how long, thousands of years maybe. Anyway, just thought I would run that by you guys. There is more to come, so stay tuned. I'll do my best to get as much as I can to you all this week. Things are revving up. Turn off that news and drama. It looks pretty bad. Find something to laugh at. And until next time, everyone, stay awake, stay aware, stay safe out there. It's where the wild things are. I'll talk to you guys soon.